Welcome. You are watching the Policy Times afternoon show, and this show is specially known as Unleashing India Web Summit series, where we bring some experts in this show to discuss about the particular policy issue of the country and try to find solution from our experts. Now, Policy Times has been regularly and continuously bringing experts from different domain and different sectors to bring solution of the problems that the country is going through. The biggest, I think, challenge at the modern time is that finding and discussing more of solutions of the problem that we are suffering. And Unleashing India Web Summit series, chaired by our respected and very dear Dr. P. Shekhar, who is the chairman of Global Smart Cities Panel, and he chairs this show. And the purpose of this show is how different stakeholders of the society can contribute to national growth. Now, just to introduce Dr. Shekhar is an architect of the doctrine called secure governance, and he has contributed around 80 books on different domains uh, related to national growth and blue economy and other areas. And this is a very special show, especially very close to me and my heart, is because the contribution of women and women achievers has always been seen from a different mirror. And today, in fact, I want to learn from our experts today that how contribution. So I made a statement and I was proved wrong just before starting the show. But I think the contribution of women is definitely huge till now, whatever format they have been doing, whether they are in the kitchen or they are in the market or they are in the office. But their contribution is always there. And since India's independence, even far before India's independence, there are many women achievers in the country who have made us proud. I think I will not take any more time. We have four eminent women achievers who will today contribute on this subject, that how women can contribute more. Without taking any more time, may I request Dr. P. Shekhar to kindly take over the session.
Thank you, Akram. This special show on women achievers, we have to only prelude with one simple statement. In Indian psyche, Indian scenario, Indian belief, the Lord of education, the Lord of wealth, the Lord of strength, all the three are women. Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. Now, with that, we know that whatever men can say they have achieved, they have done, they have to go behind a woman. And these three women control any portion wherever you go. You are a businessman, you are a educationist, you are in defense, you are in security, you have to be around them. Now, with a small brief, let us come to the brass track situation. Today, with COVID 19, hitting us from all sides, there will be a reconditioning of all of us because this has almost destroyed the whole syndrome of economy, various sectors. This is also ensured that a different definition, different times are going to come. That's why we have been saying right for the last 4 months that this is World War III in action. World War III, World Wars do are fought with arms. This is not with arms. This is without arms, it destroy. So there has to be a non-conventional way in which this has to be taken care. So women who are the backbone from any angle, even if we always say that every successful man has got a woman behind. Okay, she's actually in front. Okay, that's how they drive. In this scenario, in this particular session, we have four women achievers of a different grade. They have been successful in different way, and I would individually introduce each of them as we call them. So again, like he said, without taking much time, let me first call Sunita Mantri, madam, because she also has to go a little before the end of the show. She is a chemical engineer come environmentalist, and she is in dozen committees, and she is also into various sectors of the economy. She is not into any single sector. Okay, if you see her profile, it is so elaborate and so uh, informative that even though she is a chemical engineer, she is an environment. I always joke with her that chemical is the one which causes environmental problems, but she's there to fight it out. She's also an activist, but again, not that activist who will take agenda and run away. She will get a technical solution. So let me start with Sunita Madam. You may give your thing. What I'm saying is we are talking of two things. One is how does COVID affect us, and how do we reinvent ourselves? How do we reinvent mean? How do we ensure that after all human beings have to go and women have got a great role to play, and how would they ensure that continuity? Because left things left to men have got their own way of doing it, which is not really the right way. Women are the one who brings that corrective and right path to the man. Sunita madam.
Thank you for the invite, Dr. Shekhar. When I speak about myself, I would define in the entire environment. When I speak about something, it is correlated to what the environment has witnessed. If you've seen it, there was a pause phase. I would say this COVID-19 is a pause phase where every corrective action with respect to environment has taken place. And we could see the pristine level come back again. So similarly, when I speak on the professional front, everything was halted and we had to pause ourselves, look behind what we have done and what are the corrective measures which can be adapted for future. And those corrective actions were in place, and it was just a matter of 40 days where we could take this pause, correct ourselves, arrange ourselves, and move ahead. Now, if I look at the economy level and how the nation is going to build up, yes, there are certain challenges, but we can deal all of these challenges in an effective manner by making many corrective actions of our progress and our career. One, when we look on the economy front, yes, there are opportunities in terms of solid waste management, in terms of wastewater management. We have already got now the baseline, which has been rectified by the nature itself. Thousands of money poured in, we couldn't get the rectification. Now, there in this 40 days, things worked so magically that we could understand the simplest technology can work. So instead of bringing an expensive technology, working together, the simplest solution could come from a simplest thing. So that is a solution where I could pick up and I could see that number of people, number of young entrepreneurs in environment have come up with an amazing solution, all indigenous. Till now, we were borrowing everything because in the running show, we used to carry everything which was coming to our way. We were just making that parcel packages and moving ahead. Now we could find time to develop our own indigenous technology. We could work on something which is effective, suiting the geographic condition of the island, I mean the entire peninsula. And on that basis, we could work. And things are coming up in small packages. For example, if I speak about bioremediation, when I go on with bioremediation, there are some culture formation which was taking time. But looking at the niche and rush of the hour, we used to just focus and take up the entire remediation in a single flow. Now we took time, we could halt, and we could develop the culture in an effective manner, and then see that smallest organisms can work wonders with little bit of technology. When I speak about smallest organism make wonders, it is on the devastating side also, where the COVID-19 has shown us that a small virus can make things bad also. Yes. So on the positive side of it, when you see bioremediation, we have got small technologies which can work wonders. When we speak about wastewater treatment technologies, again, bioremediation is working there. Biomethanation is working there. Anything related to bacteria, growth of culture is working wonders. And then you speak about air quality. Now, there is no more looking at API index reaching heights. You know the baseline index has already been achieved. To keep this baseline index, now we have to put efforts to keep this baseline index in an effective manner. We have got this stratum level. Now the bottom stratum is being fixed up by the nature with all corrective actions. We'll have to build economy on that now. To build economy on that, it is easier now because since you have already got something which has been proven, now everything has to be sustainable. Any technology you bring in has to work towards the economy. Obviously, we cannot hold economy by saying just speaking about environment. We have to balance everything and work towards that. So this is an effective change, and to our credit, nation has come up with an effective policy by bringing up 2020 notification, which again gives progressively development as well as life and livelihood balance. And now, as a woman towards a contribution on environment and towards the society and towards the family which I look in, I had drawn a balanced level. which I could find time in last 40 days and see effectively what I could balance and where was I losing the balance in running through the entire race of professionalism. So that corrective action I could take up. So one positive side is I could find time for myself. Second thing, I could really work on corrective measures which small industry was requiring. I divided everything into small scale, large scale, and medium scale sector, which otherwise I was yarding in the same stick. Now I could find out the smaller solutions for smaller industry because we need to push them up with economy as well as environmental balance. So we could push them, yes, go ahead. These are the positive things you can do. Instead of giving them more on to saying that you should do this, you should do this, we came up with a solution that you can do this. These are the solutions, one, two, three parameters, and we worked on the economic viability of the technology, and we offered them those solutions. And surprisingly, they are working magical. So this is what I was thinking that somehow COVID-19, I would not never say this is a blessing in disguise, never. This is a time which has paused up the professional front and make them think that they can give a small solution to a smaller segment. A medium segment can be sandwiched between the technology and the emission load which they're catering to. And similarly, the higher segment where they were missing out. The gap analysis could have been worked out perfectly well. So on those levels, things have been progressive. And when you speak on other aspects of environment, which was never looked on, was the online teaching and online programming and online coaching to the youngsters who wanted to come out as an environmentalist. To my surprise, I had a number of people who were asking me, what is EHS expert supposed to do? And then when I started explaining them what EHS expert has to do in a simplest language or through web series, I was surprised to understand myself itself. There was so much to explain and there was so much to tell. But in the professionalism front, we could never think of any second level of entrepreneurs being developed on this front. So this is what we thought of, that second level entrepreneur, if they're developed, obviously contribution towards economy would work in, and then challenges with respect to indigenous and the technology we inherit from the importers. Those things we were looking in. And then when we speak about environmental education, there is so much big gap analysis which is there. Environment was always taken as a sector which would land up ultimately into or converge into an educational front, which somehow I differ right from the beginning. And to bring an environmental, it is not necessary they turn into activists or they turn into a teacher. There are so many fronts, so many avenues where you can develop. One can be an air expert, one can be a water expert, one can be an ecology biodiversity expert, one can be socio-economic expert. You need not be a engineer, you need not be a technocrat to become an environmentalist. You can do your sociology, you can do your humanities and come as a front and work on those social profile which are directly impacted on environment. So those are the minute levels we started working on. When I started working on, I was surprised to see segments like journalism coming in front. When somebody said on journalism, environmentalist, what can they play a role? There was huge thing we could contribute as an environmental journalist. And as an environmentalist towards a socio-economic expert who has turned into an environmentalist also is a big figure. Because any technology that comes up has a substratum or a receptor. The biggest receptor we speak about is the human beings. So when we speak about human beings as a receptor of technology or the adverse effect of environment, we forgot to see that this segment had their own say to talk about our technologies. There were some receptive areas where exactly you could have focused and you could have seen that this technology was suiting the geographical area or not. On those basis, we could see what is the outcome of the socio-economic scenario or the profile which comes up at a national level. And this way, every psychology, humanities, and you speak about other streams, geography, geology, has to be totally integrated when you speak about environment. When Shekhar sir was introducing me, I would tell myself that when I started as an environmentalist way back almost 27 years ago, I could understand that what am I supposed to do as an environmentalist? I'm a chemical engineer, and how do I come about with environmental scenarios? Because I thought environmentalists, I'm speaking about way back 27 years back. I used to feel that environmental is only related with trees and plants. But then there were so many things which I learned over the courses of time, and many things unfolded gradually and made me understand that so much is there to learn about environment. It is the holistic ecosystem. It is not a person or a plant or a receptor which has been there. Everything contributing with respect to the top layer of the soil till the top layer of the atmosphere. So there are so many things which are getting contributed in it. When we speak about builders, like I spoke to so many builders and educated them, they used to always challenge at a level saying that buildings never contribute to environmental pollution. And this is a debatable scenario. As an environmentalist, if I used to speak about, there was questions which used to come up. The economy and environment has to be balanced. Usually, they were posing as challenges and threat to each other, which was not the scenario. We were basically soulmates to each other. So when we spoke about builders who were going through a bad phase, all of us know that real estate sector has almost been dumped up. I said it is not dumped up situation. It is rethinking on what has been the loss, whatever the resource which has gone as loss, and where we could really bring the economy and reduce the per business expense of a project. We could have thought about that. So when we started analyzing those, there were so many things which came up with respect to construction sector. One, when we plan up a construction activity, we used to always forget about that 100-mile concept which our ancestors had given us. That 100-mile concept, in the sense, is if I have a building here, I need not rush down to somewhere in a different part of the globe and get stone to my building and put it, because it was indirectly contributing to so many GHG emissions over the line. The life cycle assessment of a project or a product was learned about. And then when I speak about that, I used to say that yes, this marble could have been replaced by this marble. Only this marble could have been brought into this area, and you could have worked on the economy. Bring about that marble to your area, and ultimately it has been laid in floor, and the square foot charges which you have been levied onto the customer could have been reduced. So those are the minute levels which we're working on. And then when we speak about lively environment, when we speak about anything which is friendly or which is bringing a comfort level to a resident in the area, so there has to be proper environment. There has to be a perfect aeration in the building. There has to be a perfect air to water ratio, which has to be managed very well. If you give me a perfect lavish building and lavish area with no rooms to the spaces, it wouldn't have worked on. So those are the things which could have been analyzed. We can never think about saying that economy is going to loop down or draw down. There was always a cycle in the entire history of human society that this phase always comes up. Maybe a cycle enhances by 100 years or maybe 50 years, whatever. This lump has always come up every time. There is a sum in the cycle, which we call ingress of the cycle. It's coming up. So now we need to come up with a double energy with your creativity, with your intelligence, with your indigenous technology. You need to come up with a strong level and emerge onto a solution level. Instead of making a guideline which is more directive, I would suggest that we need to bring a guideline which is more suggestive. It is not directive. So we need to bring on those lines. And to my surprise, ministry has started working on this gap analysis. And we had series of web series which went on with ministry. They were coming up with simple guideline solution. Like I could say, the health sector, which is being hit bad with APIs, which has been imported from China. Now the APIs, we were made to rethink that APIs once were being manufactured in India itself. Over a period of time, looking at the cost analysis, which where the import of the China was much easier than what we were developing indigenous, worked out. So now we have gone back to the cycle again and looking at the cost factor. It seems that now it is better to develop APIs within the nation, and number of APIs in the industries have sprung up. So again, there is an opportunity for a segment of industry which is required in this. So APIs have boosted up accordingly. Health sectors have boosted up accordingly. Manpower is going to boost up. It is a phase which is going to take time. This is the lag phase we are going through. So this will take time for us to come back to the level and reboost the economy. When our prime minister said that hum ikhatta karenge and we will do it again. So I was wondering, how does he mean by saying that do it again? Because it has to work under the psychology of every individual. It has to build up the entire morale, which was let down. When I speak about my organization, 40 days gap, everybody in my organization were let down. They were wondering that there won't be any business, there won't be any progress, and how do we get a daily bread? When we speak about small level of employee who is associated with you, his immediate thought was, next month if I don't get salary, what will happen to my daily bread? So we worked on those. We started working on psychology, and I said, you give me additional 2 hours of yours. I'll contribute and I'll give you an increment which was due to you on this time. They said, are we surely looking at those increments which were coming in? I gave them, but 2 hours additional they were supposed to contribute to my planning. So when they started contributing, they themselves in next 30 days will see that how things are unfolding for them. How there were other sectors of environment which we never touched upon, which we were only focusing on the mainstream of business which was coming up. New projects, and new projects. We never thought of old projects which was already there. There can be some points of revival also. There can be some industry which can revive in this segment, and those revival has started happening. When we speak about, say, some simple example is an asbestos industries. Asbestos industries were cut down with so many Supreme Court orders after 2011. There were a number of industries which were cropped up, and those industry was doing nothing, sitting idle, and there was plant and machinery left vacant. They couldn't do anything. So we thought with those industry, we started working with asbestos segment, and I said that can we think of anything replacing this asbestos segment and replace the entire thing with different cement unit binding units and work on. Why did we have a ban on asbestos? I spoke to them on that. I said, one, we were handling it indiscriminately. Second, we were never bothered about the person who was engaged in that. And we started working. I said, why didn't you defend this? Why didn't you work on this? We just ran away with the orders which came in. We never defended this. There are technologies which can help us. We could have, I think it wouldn't have died. And then second sector which I was working is mining, the minor mining sector. The segment minor mining sector was hit back with the imports of marble and imports of material from outside. India is very rich in mineral resources. I need not speak about this. Everything is laid down, all the statements are there. And we were never tapping up those resources in an effective manner, in a sustainable manner. We were discriminately taking out mines because the prices were not paid to us. Now, the mining sector has come up with an idea that the beneficiation of a minor mineral also can be done. And those effective technologies have started working. So I somehow foresee that next 30, 40 days, we can see that there will be some boost to the economy from the environmental angle itself. When I speak about environmental angle itself, this speaks about all the segments of environment, health, infrastructure, your metallurgy, your oil and gas sector, all the sector. They'll all come back again because some resources which were misplaced over a period of time needs to be reworked and brought back to the economy on front level, where a woman, as a woman in a house also, we at the crisis, we started looking at the resources which are there at our house and we started utilizing effectively. Similarly, on the professional front, we need to adapt the same thing which is required. We need to effectively utilize our resources. We need to, and this is what I feel turning momentum which is required to boost the economy. And as a woman in an environmentalist and in the domestic front, I could understand that this balance could have struck perfectly well and bring great things to us. Like post COVID, all of us will be looking at the health aspect on a greater level. We are all conscious about health. So I spoke to one of the young entrepreneur. I said, now work on organic farming. Work on something we can you directly pass on to the household level. So there, agriculture again got a boost. And then if you look at the effective in health and sanitization, again the environmental sector, water sectors, solid waste sector, everything comes up with a great boost. And now people have started working on recycle, reuse everything effectively. We were making all the stocks. Now the stocks have come as implementation and effective utilization. For example, simple mask, which was required. People in our Indian women could take out small rags, stitch those masks effectively and utilize. And now this has become a business for them. Now getting the mask at the level or the PPE at the levels have become a business. So there was an opportunity hidden here. Anything which comes up as a pause always has a time to think and reutilize the opportunity which was lost. This is what I feel on my side I could contribute towards the development or the effectiveness of a society or towards the nation building.
Thank, thank you. You did a wonderful, you know, uh, beginning and maybe a thought-provoking way we should look at it. Now,
Absolutely.
I would like to invite Dr. Megha. Megha is a person with vast, not only a basic educational background. She's done a doctorate in GIS and urban planning. She's a consultant to World Bank, and at the same time, She helps rural people with all their avenues, what they are doing. She's trying to put it to the international market. See a GIS specialist with all urban planning doing something of this grade just because of her love for the society, love for the country. I will not say all of her love for country. And the way she is going to put, I would like her to spend 2 minutes on her work and then whatever way she feels woman can get into a different phase as this COVID goes further. Dr. Megha.
Thank you, Policy Time, and thank you, Dr. Shekhar, for inviting me on this session. It is really an inspiring topic. And I'll be speaking basically based on my experience in the World Bank projects, rural livelihood missions, as well as my first-hand experience in the water sanitation sector and with my own entrepreneurship as a first-hand experience. So most of the stakeholders whom I deal with, 90% are women. So there is a lot of learning, a lot of experience coming through, and a lot of knowledge to share with. So basically, if we see women's role in this entire scenario as of now, we could put women into two, three different levels of work. One is a group of women which we call self-help groups, whether it's a rural self-help group or urban self-help group, 10 to 12 women put together. We have promoted as a part of the project and as a part of the livelihood thing. And the good experience to share that these women, though they are not big decision makers, but they really proved themselves in the turn times, this times. You'll be happy to know that across pan India, right from Kerala to Kanyakumari and any other state we name it, these women have really come forward as running community kitchens for the migrant workers, doing community kitchens for the hospitals, doing masks for the district administration and all the poor people, then doing working as financial correspondents or banking correspondents to do the last mile delivery of the cash in hand for the where bankers are not able to reach out. So they have really proven themselves. So this is one good segment of self-help group women whom I work with, and it was a enriching experience to learn their stories through webinars and through videos and through newspapers, and how they have really stood up for the household income and for the community building at this particular juncture. The second group of women I would relate to would be mostly the women entrepreneurs whom we work with, be it in the rural areas or be it in urban areas. So small time women entrepreneurs. So mostly we see if they are working in the sector of home necessities, especially agriculture or animal husbandry supply or grocery supply or related products, they could really fetch themselves well because they really worked on a good supply chain. They learned a few things on putting catching the deliveries and how do they create a supply chain in this difficult time and home to home delivery and all the other things. So they really learned up a lot of new things in the process of production, manufacturing, and supplying products to the community, and especially when there is a lockdown and people are not able to come out. So these were the ways they could support themselves. But the third sector, which would I also talk about, as is the artisan sector, which really had trouble times in this particular period. And my first-hand experience of entrepreneurship is also on that. But as we see that we use this time to really think and develop new initiatives, how a lot of pending things which were there on the drawing board, and we could spend some time that how we can work on new products, how we can work on new samples, and read some international market research reports and all that, and see how we can make ourselves capable, so that whatever the pause time we have, and once the market gets open with no hopefully no China products around, and there would be a lot of demand for the local handicrafts, local gift items made out of waste, gift items made out of recycled fabrics. So we really worked on those all kind of aspects, that developing our catalogs and samples and developing our business plan, And we also supported a lot of women entrepreneurs who work with us, that how we can partner in future, how we can close our MOUs, how we can learn through different IT enabled tools, be it mobile apps for posting of products, or be it creating a small videos at the community level. So a lot of such tools help the communities and the women entrepreneurs to grip themselves with facilities and tools, so that they can cover up the loss they have made. But the good part is that a lot of people, a lot of women, especially worked on in Hindi what we call it jod dhanda, so that there is a main occupation, but you do something which supplements your family. So if so, in rural areas also we saw that the women realized that though agriculture is the main profession for that, but they can always do a bit of goatry, a bit of poultry, a bit of tailoring. So somehow people realize that they have to be there has to be resilience towards the critical issue, critical disasters coming, be it natural disaster or be it something like COVID. So they have to have a cushion around them. They have to have a buffer zone around them, and that is what was also seen in this particular period, that women try to develop that extra activity or extra household income for them, or at least thought that they should be able to do that, because if some calamity comes and they are not able to survive with their main occupation, there is a subsidiary occupation for them to support that. So this good thinking came from most of our project women, and it was a great experience to learn it, and it was a great experience to know all this independently. Me also, I and my team put a lot of time on developing new projects, new proposals, and otherwise, as rightly said, we are just working on daily schedules, and the schedules are very tight. In fact, I found myself working more than working days in these COVID period. It was not a pause period at all, and more you dig into your responsibilities or your passion towards delivering to the society, you see that the sky is the limit, and you can do unlimited things, and the time is less. So a lot of thinking time was there to dig horizontally and vertically, and I'm sure all our women in our projects, where we are working with them day in and day out in rural and urban areas, and as well as the women entrepreneurs whom we support as an individual business, or through the projects I work with. I'm sure they are going to live up to their challenges, and they would be a big decision maker in this entire economy and society, and they would be a good resource, or a bit of good source of primary livelihood for the families, contributing very strongly to the community and the household they belong to. So I feel, I mean, overall, I feel, since I work mostly with the women, so I feel they've really lived up, and they have really proved themselves in the testing times, and they are pretty strong, and they reacted very fast in the urgencies to come, and they were very strong mentally, physically, and tried themselves to make themselves strong financially also. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a wonderful advice with practical experience in urban, rural combination, survival, so on and so forth. Now, next speaker, of course, is Dr. Masooma Rizvi. She is an institution by herself. She has done so much of work in art, culture, on so many things. And just one statement, four of her art has been inaugurated by the Prime Minister himself. The last one was just about 2 to 3 months back. She also is a motivational speaker, and I'm sure she would teach many of us maybe how to present, how to make ourselves more important to things which are going forward. And with COVID coming in picture, she has done a lot of things for defense. She has done for Rashtrapati Bhavan. She has done for you name it, cultural organization in Varanasi. She has done so many things for the Prime Minister himself. And she is a pet of all the departments of the government, independent of whichever is the government. It is not. She's not for yesterday or today. She has been one of the very good person who's trying to keep the culture the way it is, the art the way it is and the way it can be expanded. And I would request our great motivational speaker herself to give the talk, Dr. Masumo.
Thank you so much, um, Dr. Shekhar, for all the nice words, and Policy Times for inviting me to this wonderful discussion and esteemed panel. The first thing I would like to say is if there are more people like Dr. Shekhar who has such respect and nice words to say about women who work, I think we wouldn't need these discussions. Thank you, Dr. Shekhar, again. My specialty, or where I come from, is with women craftspeople and artisans. Women artisans have been the most vulnerable group in India, be it social, cultural, or economic perspective. In spite of women having multiple roles in the family and society at large, threading in the existential elements keeping human beings together, women as a class are not financially stable. They are disallowed to demonstrate their skill sets and contribute to growth and development of society. My focus is on these women, women who belong to such backgrounds or such clusters where they are very vulnerable. I will largely address the difficulties this group of women artisans and craftspeople experienced during COVID and continue to experience or will continue during post COVID situations. First of all, I would like to share my thoughts. What is broken? What has changed with the emergence of COVID 19? Well, from my perspective, social, economic, and cultural. Now, these three main pillars of human existence have undergone tectonic shifts. And the worst thing is they have been disproportionate. There's a lot of incorrect information and correct information floating around over COVID. The incorrect information makes you panic. Even educated people, like all of us, do get swayed by the WhatsApp universities. We do start drinking and eating to be healthier, and then you pause and you say, hey, wait, I got a new WhatsApp today. So, this information which is being decimated to us, there is no information which is going out to this group of artisans, women artisans, on how to adjust to the changing scenario, how to adjust to the situations. There's hardly any advice available on the livelihood side of human existence. Money, economics is a reality to life. When you combine these three elements, you realize that there is a shift in the social, economic, and cultural milieu of the society. I, as a woman artisan, craftsperson, and change maker, I empathize with all my lot because being educated gives me a little less reason to panic and more reason to find resources. With my domain expertise in art and culture, I understand the difficulties that my fellow craftswomen are going through. As an advisor with TriFit, which is the marketing branch of the tribal ministry, we realized that tribal women have had such a terrible few months, and it seems to be never ending when you start talking to them. Through today's talk, I would like to convey the need and the solutions to how they can adjust to the new normal. So I am absolutely focusing on just my segment where I have 200 artists who work with me. Every project that I have taken in last 20 years, I would like you to know that 40% have been women artisans. It hasn't been easy because women work, but the money would go to the husbands. And in 70% times, it would be drunk up in 2 days and poverty would strike again. So we started with opening accounts, getting them registered with the textile ministry and the art and culture ministry. And now the figure has moved over 200 people. But that is just a drop in the ocean. So, on the micro side, due to the downturn of fortunes of this extremely vulnerable group of women, there is profound impact on national growth. When I talk about national growth to people, I was laughed at once, I must tell you, because they said national growth with women artisans. Well, people might not agree with me, but let me ask, how do you define national growth? Is national growth only in terms of economic well being, or does it also take into account social and cultural happiness? Does it only include large businesses, or does it look into the existential threats for these self employed women? It is a well known fact and well accepted argument that when a woman earns money, she spends it largely on the family and society. All of us women here who are working or have worked, it's true for us too. Therefore, it becomes extremely important to put money in the hands of these mothers, sisters, and women artisans. COVID 19 has brought with it disruption in national growth. Such disruptions have surfaced not only in the field of economy, they have also surfaced in social and cultural exchanges. I've always believed that probably only mechanical robots can live in a society where social, cultural aspects mean nothing. Human beings need to imbibe, they need to interact, and they need the elixir of a social, cultural concoction. This is important, imperative, and our culture is embedded in just this. So now that I have outlined the problems I see of COVID 19, let me dwell upon the solutions. Every problem comes with its own solution. Like Sunita ji said very truly, that yes, COVID has made us pause. COVID has made us believe what is actually important to all of us. But for this segment of people, the first remedy that I can think of is to provide correct information through a medium which is acceptable to these women artisans. The target group is mainly moderately literate to illiterate. However, they are very aware of their immediate environments. We need to use the right type of communication. Electronic information dissemination doesn't seem to be working there. We need to talk about new incentives which are coming out from the government. The government is doing its bit, be it the central government or the state government. But more importantly, how will they avail of these incentives? Most of the time, people talk about what is available, but do they know how to use it? We definitely need to go about busting myths, bridging the information gap, the communication gap between what is and where it can be employed by, who can use it, what are the facilities that a person can avail. Many times it is middlemen. In my experience of 18 years, I have seen artists would be paid 10% only of the total sum of the work order. The middleman ate all the rest. It was a pathetic situation. Now, with the artist being directly connected to the government, they get the entire amount. When I take a project in Pravasi Bharati Kendra, which is now the Sushma Swaraj Bhavan, I would like to give you an example. We showed the work order, we put in 200 artists and created the building in 45 days. It could only happen because the artists realized here, they saw the work order, we took 5% from money from that, gave the rest to them. So they realized they would make more money than they ever made. Similarly, they need to know where to go for their livelihood. What are the incentives that they need to get? Now, a very small thing I would like to say here is Honorable Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat. So many in the rural areas hear that. just after or before his Monkey Bath, we could use that time to give information about whatever areas that need to be targeted with women. If we give this, at least the women will hear, the men will hear, and we would have decimated information in a very nice way. And why not use WhatsApp? Why not use these radios? And here I would also like to say that the Policy Times, which is an emerging media, can also contribute wherever they have an outreach, whichever community they have. They could spread the word, find the incentives, find every government, every state government we found, like for the tribals, is giving huge incentives. People just don't know about them. So that is the step one. On the social cultural aspect, we need to evolve a process to collectively express social and cultural thoughts. Zoom is fine for people who understand the ways of the world of internet. Like, somebody once said recently, oh, you don't need the internet for Zoom. I mean, if educated people too, sometimes we get kind of boxed in by the net, by the present technology. What about these uneducated people? So they need definitely to practice, to get together, keeping the COVID requirements in mind, to start the socio-cultural fabric to come together. Train them with new technologies. We can't just force them to use new technologies. It's very frustrating if a person doesn't know computers to say, oh, you can sit and learn long distance about new skills. They need to be trained on how to use these new skills. So that was the second thing which I really feel we can do as people, as NGOs, as the government. And the third, the target group I'm talking about is not very accommodative of fast paced changes. They work with their hands traditionally and historically. So the government, the society, and the overall corporate world needs to focus on advising suitable economic stimuli for them, which would mean understanding their work, their culture, and where they are coming from. So this would require an interface which is knowledgeable, somebody who has worked in those areas, like Megha ji, Megha Phansalkar ji was saying, we work with artisans, we make packages. Lots such people should be put on and used, their skills used before policy making to help these people. Then there is this corporate social responsibility funding in order to provide better visibility to the concerned companies, but also to provide sustainable growth to the people we are targeting. I would like to say that these companies can adopt groups of people and help these artisans and craft people survive. When it comes to societal intervention, it may be a good idea to prioritize such societies. You would be appalled to know that when we were doing a study, we realized that we have these small hearts, which are temples, which you can carry all around the world, migrant temples with stories of the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and all the stories of our culture. There is only one family that does it. Earlier, it was done by the whole village. And that is what is happening to women artisans. Madhubani is getting diluted totally because there are just these 4 or 5 people doing it. So unless we promote women's crafts, why I emphasize on women craft persons is because women nurture children. So while they are nurturing, they gently pass those art forms to the next generations. My last point, I, I'm going about very point-wise on what individuals and government can do in post-COVID situations for my target people who I work with is new economic opportunities. Can we look at creating new kinds of practices? Like what we are doing with TriFit is we are trying to innovate marketing of tribal art. We are trying to have availability of easy credit, changing the realities of post-COVID world and translating them into a language which is understood. Why is WhatsApp so popular? Because it helps you communicate in whichever language you understand. Similarly, For craftsmen, for artisans, we have to communicate in that language. The three things which are very important to reach out to them is the medium of communication, the mode of communication, and the content of communication. And that can only be done if it is packaged in a way that they are not hostile, but it is easily understood by the stakeholders. Once again, for this kind of job, it would be a great idea to get in domain experts, people who have been there, who have done it, and maybe have even retired. Everybody wants to give to the community. Tap the people with expertise. If you tap, say, 100, I'm positive there will be 20 who will be willing to give their time to the goodness of society. Considering all this, I truly believe, from my experience, that in India, there is a myth that people feel we Indians don't look at mentoring or we Indians don't give. It's a myth. There are people who are giving, there are people who are doing a lot. If we get to our segments, what is important to us, and we look at helping, I think change makers or change managers, as I call myself, have a long way to go because women naturally have empathy and women respond to other women. So, post COVID, I think it will definitely help if we take these few steps forward. Thank you so much, Dr. Shekhar. I hope I was able to put forward my views.
It has been an excellent, thought provoking whatnot. You are really a motivational speaker. I'm sure you should speak to various audience and various ways in which you can communicate. Like you're saying, communication is going to be one of the basic things. Now, coming back to ending this particular show, women, as we know, are playing a key role, are going to play a key role, are have to play a key role. They cannot escape it because we need it. But when we say key role and everything, we have to understand what it means. Sometimes people feel that key role means the percentage in various sectors has to be high, which when we have presented it. But it doesn't start there. It starts with a mindset. Just by having 40% reservation and 60% reservation, an exploiting man will put his own wife and his own daughter and his own sister to the post, and then you got your percentages right, which is not women development. Women development should be like what we are seeing in this particular small show, that people who have come out by themselves, encourage them. But just because somebody of our own sisters have not come up doesn't mean that they are not contributing. They are pushing somebody else. Where things are bad is when they are oppressed. There we have to rise and revolt. Support them. Ensure that just this COVID itself, one of the negative things which has happened in COVID is that so many people have got a domestic violence. We have to do something about it. And whether it's good or bad, we do not know. 9 months from now, there is going to be a child explosion. Okay. This is also anti-woman, but it is going to be there because we can't help it. And there is going to be unnecessary, a separate set of people who, like you, are thinking. They are all wondering what to do after 8 9 months. There is going to be a huge explosion, and but practical is practical. We have to see how we can handle the situation. As you know, in India, per day, almost 75,000 people are born. Per day, about 27,000 people die. Now, when we see the facts and figures and find that today there are 300 people dying of COVID and the whole country is brought to knees, it's just 1%. Why we do not know? What is it this is being there? What is it that is being spread? There are so many diseases which are not curable, which is there with us. There are so many ways in which people say, oh, that was alive really died, oh, COVID has really destroyed us. Hey, everybody's alive, they are dead. So, but this is going to give a lot of pressure to all of us, and especially to women. It is going to be a very, very big job. Like it or no, they have the responsibility, they have the capability, and they have the wherewithal. They have to do. And where they are depressed, like I said few minutes back, they have to be supported. Even facts and figures are said that so many facts, say, oh, so many women are being this thing. Some of the facts are wrong. In India, even our male female ratio is, in fact, in many other states, female ratio is more than males. Okay. So when we try to project something, let us not overdo it also against the realities of life. Okay. I know one speech of some very famous person. They said 1 crore women are being killed every year. 1 crore women are born every year. I have the question, and the ratios are almost same. So, but where there's a problem, even if one woman is being troubled, let us support her. It should not be just by numbers that they should be 1 crore woman. So on the other side, wherever people are good, people are being deprived because of women. Yes, we have to support. And other portion, which I will conclude with this, where things are going to make a huge difference, is the way because of COVID we are able to have this one conference in video, which we could not have done 3 months back. Either you call a conference, call a person, this thing, and just for there are many times we have gone all the way just to give a 10-minute talk. Many times we even gone abroad for a 10-minute talk. Today it is possible. Now, if I extend this, like I said, if Dr. Megha has to make her presence felt in some rural area, people will be ready. She can sell the goods of a rural person, seeing, showing, copying, taking a printout, not taking a printout, taking a photo, showing, and then this thing. Whatever Dr. Masooma is doing, that she can be shown various things. She assimilates. She goes only when it is 100% necessary. This is a minor but a very effective positive thing is going to happen. A woman, even during a delivery time or because of her child, she has decided not to have a job, she may just, be in the garden with her child and maybe training some rural woman or even, very crudely speaking, a Chinese how to speak English. Because Chinese are looking forward to Indians to this thing. Today's China is a banned word, I know. So, whatever is good about us, we can always project it today. Every sector, skill development, everything can be done. Today, so many of our own Indians are coming back to the country because every country has got its own trouble. The women portion of it can keep their own technology, can keep their own expertise on, and see to it that they make their contribution, which is good. Last is, since I'm supposed to be this thing innovator for secure governance. Now, secure governance also I'll talk 2 minutes on how women can play a role. In secure governance, we say through value valuation, the country can grow. The self-sustained economy can come in picture through just a proper structured planning. Okay. That means what? If I make a road, road gives value around the road. Translating into the human strength, a woman brings huge value. They capitalize the value and then make things cheaper for the future. This thing that generates the money. So I will not go too deep into because it's a huge topic by itself. So through that secure governance also we can imply, which again means a woman-centered organizations can come in picture. Woman-centered should not even be calculated. Woman means should be 100% woman so that even a gatekeeper is woman. Need not be. Some men has to be there. Any woman-centered organization should have 10 to 15% men also. And then those organizations can be given certain leverage of floor space index that these organizations can have 4 FSI and then make X amount commercial. So the Y amount can ensure that there's a sustained growth. Multiply it. You suddenly find the whole rural area development can get into a very different dimension because we have to do what we can do. There's no point in duplicating others, duplicating other countries, duplicating others in our own country. So these can definitely give because we are good. Like I started, I will end. We have Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Durga as our god, and which means that we have to give few good respect and good credit to the right set of women. 99% the right set of women. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's exactly three. Akram, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to have the view. Maybe I will just ask one liner from you in terms of the situation in India now, uh, the contribution of women and all. One line, like we are a policy platform. I'll be extremely happy if you give just in bullet points, 2, 3 points, what exactly at the policy level we can do more to bring more women into the workforce or into mainstream. Just 1 or 2 line bullet points. Maybe Rizvi ma'am, Masooma ma'am, you can begin with this. Just 1, 2 bullet point other than your sector. Overall, yeah,
The most important thing I feel is awareness. There is enough talent, there are enough women willing to work. We need to have adjustable times. We need to be more empathetic to a woman's needs. Everything will work if the government makes policies around the various roles that a woman has in her personal life and gives that kind of leeway to work. Why is Google today such a huge success? Because people can work from home, they can work in office, they don't need a particular way of working or dressing or being. They get maternity and paternity leave.
correct.
Just take it of a woman's needs, and she will give you 10 times more in return.
Amazing. I'll just Mega ma'am, 1 or 2 bullet points that you can see that if this can be adapted, we can bring more women into the mainstream workforce.
I think we need to bring women at the higher up of the ladders of decision making. Just to give an example, a farming community, 99% of farmers working in the field are women, whereas all the decision making regarding marketing, sales, and everything is taken by the men. So, in each sector, if we can see that they should climb the decision making ladder one by one, step by step, and the higher they rise, I think it would be very good for the country, community, and the overall households.
Excellent. Thank you. I think I wanted to have this kind of point. So flexible work culture. I think that can bring more because in the COVID crisis we have learned one thing that office is no more the only place for work. People can work from home, and Policy Times has been working from home. In fact, the our span, like the kind of expansion and span of work, has doubled and tripled than during the pre-COVID lockdown period. The second thing, we need to bring more and more women in the top level leadership. Though we have seen Indira Gandhi being on the top of the government, and we saw many. And one research says that during the COVID-19 crisis, in countries where women are the head of the state, that those states have done far better than their male counterparts. The stronger the male as leader of the country, the worse they have done for the COVID-19 crisis. We know all strong leaders, male leaders who are dominating the world, and how poor they have done in the crisis. On the other hand, see Germany, see some other country, Korea, they have done wonderfully well, and the women leaders are not. I think with this, we would like to end today's discussion. Thank you so much. Keep watching the Policy Times.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Good, only Purpasha couldn't come.
And,
Okay.
okay, it is now offline. So, is someone
Yeah.
recording?